Okay, folks, so today's golf course under review is a course called Stony Creek Golf Course, and it is in Nellysford, Virginia. So the drive down was actually pretty decent. They have two golf courses in the area, and Stony Creek it's a 3x9 configuration. And I played the two courses. One of them starts with an M and another one starts with an S, I believe. But the three courses are slope 140, slope 139, and slope 137. So I played the slope 140 and the slope 139 course. It's somewhat disappointing in some ways, and it was nice in other ways. I did get there at about 5 o'clock, and I barely had enough time. And I was really kind of goofing around between taking pictures with my 750 D750, which I hadn't shot in a couple of months, to be honest. The bad part of it is largely a housing community that also is a resort. I think a lot of ski resorts have chalets and so forth in the area, houses in the area. Definitely, you're not going to have that much land, like a large amount of land, and not have any houses, especially up there in the mountains. There's a fair number of houses up there. This course, I would say, the first course I played, the slope 140 course, was unfortunately populated with houses. Now, there were decent houses. They were decently separated from the course in terms of OB and so forth. Not right there in the course. Very few of the houses, relatively few of the houses, were right there within 50 yards of the course. But still, there were still too many houses there for me to really feel comfortable playing it. However, it was a nice course. I actually liked the first course, which was, while it was a slope 140 course and while it was 7,000 yards, it wasn't a super tough course. It was a challenging course in some ways, but it was mostly decent, I would say. It was a decent 9-hole course. I actually enjoyed playing it, and I would call it at least as good as several courses that I've played that have a similar layout. I can't remember the names of them off the top of my head, but I can think of quite a few courses that I've played that are a similar type of layout, similar types of holes, similar verticality, not too tight, not too wide, decent challenge off the tee, but not super tight or anything like that. And they have a decent amount of water. Also, this whole course has several lateral hazards that are creeks and stuff, and it also has a lake, that plays into 2 or 3 of the houses and so forth. So the holes, sorry. And it's actually a nice, decent course, but it has houses, 2 or 3 per hole. There's never really a spot on this course where you don't see a house. Let's put it that way, which is unfortunate because if it had like half as many houses, that wouldn't be a bad thing. I could definitely deal with that. The other problem is very few of the houses on this course are behind trees, or most of them are right there. If you look to the right, there's a house. Maybe they're not on the left side of the fairway, but they're definitely on the right side of the fairway. And so you're like, for instance, number 8 and 9 on this course, on the slope 140 course. From tee to green, there are houses, every 75 yards, let's say. And they're about 75 yards off the fairway. And so you house, and you're at the green. You go to the ninth tee box. There's a house behind it. There's a house to the right. There's another house, and then you go out, and it's a dogleg right, and you go out, and then it actually comes back. Dogleg right goes down, and then on the right side of the inside of the dogleg, there's house, all the way down to the green. And on the dogleg side, the houses are well back from the green, and it's actually a pretty nice hole. It's a nice technical hole, but it's flat, rather featureless. There's some waste on the left side. There's a road on the left side, neighborhood road on the left side. But the main thing is that it's a big, long hole, and there's plenty of opportunity to put balls in the waist to the left going to the green, or put balls OB on the right. But it's not like they're right there, but they're still in your eye. Let's put the in you're looking. There's the green, there's the waist to the left, there's this long 275-yard section that you're trying to get to in the green, and then there's houses. And there's a big difference between a hole where you don't see any houses and a hole where you do. And I guess that's one thing. The second thing is, how many houses do you see? And the third thing is how far away they are from the fairway, or how far away the OB is that's between the fairway and the house. How far is that away from the fairway? So if you're trying to hit a 300-yard shot to a green, OB needs to be away from the fairway, or there's a good chance that you're just going to hit, maybe 10 or 15 yards off line and put a ball up in, if not in someone's house, certainly in their backyard. Okay. And I would say that was a concern. Now, the thing about it is that the next course, which was the slope 139 course, was tighter, definitely tighter. I would say the fairways were about a third as wide as they were on the slope 140 course. It was a technical course. There was significant distance on this course, and the fairways and so forth were quite, I would say, not tight. They weren't impossibly tight. I think that they were certainly playable. I would say most of my tee shots I put in play, and I'm not talking about in the fringe up by the houses or anything like that. But in this course, it was much more by the trees, because the houses were all behind trees, like row trees on the left, row trees on the right, houses behind them. This course was much better in the sense that you couldn't really see the houses because they were behind, a lot of trees. And while you could see them when you drove by them, because you could see through the trees to the house, they weren't really in play during the play of the course, except for a few. I think the number 9, the number 7, as we came back to the clubhouse, unfortunately there was a row of houses that popped up on the right, and going on number 9, just a dogleg left, there's some houses that popped up on the left side. But once you make that turn, there's nothing there. There's just the clubhouse, and then there's the driving range off to the right. So it's a pretty open shot coming in. So the second course, which is a slope 139 course, has probably about as many houses on the course, but they're almost all behind a row of trees on the left and right. Almost all of them out of sight. And those trees are much more of a concern than the houses. On the slope 140 course, it's the opposite, where there are a few trees here and there. Maybe the left side or the right side is woods, say, but there's openness on the other side where the houses are, because they did not blank the houses with a row of trees. There's the occasional tree. There's certainly trees out there, like maybe 4 or 5 or 6 trees or 7 trees per hole in the fairway, but not nearly so many trees as to hide the houses that were off behind them. So it's certainly a much different flavor of a course to play the slope 40 course versus the slope 139 course. Now, I will also say that one of the big differences was that there also was more water on the slope 140 course than on the slope 139 course. But on the slope 139 course, you had more mountain ridges popping up in the background, and if the sun's setting, you're looking into the sun. You've got that bright sky with the sun, and then the dark foreground where the shadow is behind the mountains or hills or whatever. But if you're looking away from the sun, then you've got this big bright sky with clouds lit up by the setting sun, and some green or corner of the course or something. And it's kind of nice. It's kind of neat. I think it's a very decent looking place to play golf in. I definitely enjoyed playing it later, where I saw the afternoon sunset and so forth and so on. And that was kind of nice. I think it would be a decent place to play in August or September or October when the leaves start to turn. But overall, I would say this course wasn't all that impressive to really where I would say I really want to go back there and play it again. I would say technically it was a very decent technical course, but that doesn't mean I want to go back there. I just didn't really kind of get any kind of feeling like the course had much panache. It was nice clubhouse, nice staff members, nice carts, and I guess that's really the overall impression that I got. It was nice, but that kind of nice where there's not really much special about it. It was a nice facility. The courses were a decent challenge. They were definitely decent rounds to play, but not anything really unique. And certainly too many houses. I could definitely think of other courses in the area, not even far from there. The course I played in Stoughton, which is Ironwood, not too far from, no houses on the course. No, it's not like no, but like 4 on the entire course, maybe 5 on the entire course. Maybe, on this course, easily 30, 40 houses that I played. I mean, every hole for the 18 holes had at least 2 or 3 houses just out of the OB area. It was just a question whether they were hidden by trees or not, and that was one of the big differences. So, and I think it's not really the kind of thing where you can say it's a great golf course because it just had too many houses. Number one, just too many houses. Second thing is, on the Slope 139 course, some of the holes were repetitive. I mean, they were at least the same as on the 139 course. Like, instead of a dogleg right, you took a dogleg left or something like that. But, you pull up to the tee and it's like the exact same hole. Like, one of the holes on the Slope 139 course was exactly the same as the number 8 hole, just flipped. So that you walked up to the tee, there was a house on one side or the other, and then it dogleg right as opposed to dogleg left. It was just almost the exact same hole. But I have to admit that there was a decent amount of peril around the greens. You had to be careful not to go running off. Not every hole was so steep behind the green that the ball would bounce down into a set of ivy or something. That was the case on some of them, but not all. Usually they had a big open space with a lot of deep grass, rough, and sand traps around it. But sometimes they had some serious peril around the green. Definitely the hole that we were playing, the par 3 we were playing over lake, which I think is like the number 5 on the Slope 140 course. That is some peril. I mean, there's a big lake right there between the tee box and the green, at least for the, I think on all the tees there's places over that lake to the green. But behind that green, there's a lot of space, a lot of swales. And that was another thing. It had a lot of swales and stuff where kind of like, let's take the idea of having swales from a links course, but not make it a links course. And I think that's one of the great things about what they did here, is because in this case, if you go off behind those swales, you're not far from going into the woods. Whereas a links course, 9 times out of 10, those swales will have a bunch of long grass, and you can't see where the ball goes. It can go way back into the long grass, once you go over the swales. So on a links course, usually the swales are effectively OB. You're very lucky if you're on a links course, you can go back over those swales or in those swales into the waist or long grass and find your ball. I mean, you really kind of need to stay out of that stuff. You need to keep the ball in your fairway or something on a links course. That's kind of like what I think of the idea of a links course is. This course was not quite that bad, but it was not like, you could just spray balls all over the course. Not at all. Not in the slightest. There was some leeway between the fairway, the rough, and the woods, and so forth, but not a lot. Not a lot. You could definitely get into trouble hitting off the fairway. So all in all, I think I'd give this course probably B start. So there were parts of it where I was thinking it was, really nice course, nice. The grass was this weird kind of hybrid between, it said deep thatched root grass, like they have at the University of Maryland, College Park, and some other courses. Not many courses have it, but it's that kind of grass which probably turns white. It's that deep, it's not that thin kind of grass that turns white in the winter. It's the thicker, robust root kind of grass that kind of can, grab it, can get really thick easily, and you have to be careful not to get too deep in it because it'll just grab your cup. There's that kind of grass in a lot of places. Decent rough, decent long grass. I mean, it was in decent shape. I think the greens, unfortunately, were not consistently in good shape. Some of them had black spots and so forth around the edges of them. I think if you're talking about 36 holes back up in the mountains, it can be a challenge to keep everything in tip-top shape, and the greens definitely did show a little bit less than perfect on some of the cases. So that's it. I think I'd give this course a B star. Honestly, it was a better course than Ironwood. Honestly, better option than Ironwood, but not as good an environment to play golf in. One of the reasons I gave Ironwood such a great rating, I gave it a B plus, is because there were almost no houses on the course. It was a quiet, secluded golfer's paradise. This course is every hole you get the impression that someone's watching you play. Often you can hear people talking in their decks and whatever inside there. You can't see them, but you can hear them, and there's people out there mowing their yards or playing with their pets or letting their kids play. People walking. And it's one thing that's really annoying is you're trying to play golf, you're trying to drive down the fairway, and suddenly you got to watch out for some women walking down the cart path, or some guy walking his dog on the cart path. That gets irritating because it just takes you out of the mindset of playing golf to suddenly have to worry about the residents on the course, and so that was another thing. Cars going by the course, all the little stuff that you don't have when you don't have houses on the course. You just don't have it. And it's such a great thing. Now, I can name at least one other course not too far from there that is very much like that. No houses on the course. The other thing, this course was $110 to play at 5 o'clock on Saturday. That's not cheap, okay? So it's a lot of money to play to get this kind of a course. Now, and I feel bad because it is a decent environment, decent, I won't say different, it's a decent course. Decent sets of courses. Nice layout, all that kind of stuff. It's just that it's burden. It's like you're dating a woman who has 3 kids. One of the reasons I play golf is to get away from all that other stuff. Don't want to deal with traffic. Don't want to deal with people yapping, I don't care. I just don't want to hear them. Don't want to deal with them. I just want to focus on golf. And it's super difficult to focus on golf in an environment where there are a lot of houses. It's really hard to do that. So, I just can't overlook that. And as such, I think a B star, and that's crediting the course as it is for the condition and the layout. That's making up a little bit for the fact that there's a fair number of houses around the course. It's not a bad place to play. I certainly would recommend this course if you are a golfer and an enthusiast and you're a technical player and so forth. It's not the hardest course in the area that I can think of. It's not the kind of course that I would say, oh, let's go play this because it's so tough or it's such an ass kicker or whatever. It's the hardest one there is only slope 140 from the back tees. And trust me, it's not that hard. But it's not a walk in the park either. It's a decent, challenging set of 9 holes. The slope 140 course. The slope 138 course I didn't play. The easiest one, the 139 I did play. I thought that was a nice balance of difficulty and just fun to play it. That perhaps the slope 140 course was lacking. But I just was not wowed. I just wasn't. It's not bad, but it's not great. That's Stony Creek at the Winter Green Resort in Nellysford, I think it is, Nellystown, Virginia. Just south of Waynesboro, about 20 miles south of Waynesboro. I'd give this course probably B star.